Today, during the meeting, we will consider the current situation in the special military operations zone. In certain directions, we will hear reports from troop group commanders on task completion by their subordinate groups. Additionally, this week, the Russian armed forces conducted a training of strategic offensive forces, during which training and combat launches of all three components of the Russian Federation's strategic nuclear forces were conducted, as well as tests of advanced weapon models. Let's get to work.
Comrade Supreme Commander-in-Chief, the troops of the Joint Group continue to carry out tasks to liberate the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics, Zaporizhzhia and Kherson regions during the special military operation. Today, I would like to highlight two directions in particular. The first is the area of responsibility of the Center Group, comprising the 2nd and 51st Army units. Advancing on converging directions, they completed the encirclement of the enemy in the Krasnoarmeysk and Dimitrovo area. A large group of the armed forces of Ukraine, comprising 31 battalions, has been blocked, including units of the 25th Airborne, 79th Air Assault, and 68th Jaeger Brigades, as well as the 35th and 38th Marine Brigades, the 425th Separate Assault Regiment, and the 153rd and 155th Mechanized Brigades. During the performance of combat tasks, the most distinguished servicemen were from the 30th Separate Motor Rifle Brigade and the 439th Motor Rifle Regiment of the 2nd Army, as well as the 9th and 110th Separate Motor Rifle Brigades of the 51st Army, and also the personnel of the Rubicon Unmanned Technologies Center Unit. The successful execution of the operation to encircle the enemy was facilitated by delivering comprehensive fire damage to the formations of the armed forces of Ukraine throughout the depth of their operational formation, as well as isolating the area of hostilities to disrupt the uninterrupted supply of enemy units. Currently, the Center Group faces the equally important task of destroying the encircled group of the armed forces of Ukraine in the Krasnoarmeysk-Dimitrovo agglomeration area. Secondly, in the area of operations of the Western Troop Group, the city of Kupiansk has been encircled. Meanwhile, assault units of the 68th Motor Rifle Division of the 6th Army, executing a flanking maneuver, captured the enemy's crossings over the Oskol River south of the city. In cooperation with the 47th Motor Rifle Division and the 27th Motor Rifle Brigade of the 1st Tank Army, they blocked the armed forces of Ukraine Group on the left bank of eastern Kupiansk. Encircled the subdivisions of the 14th, 43rd, 116th Mechanized Brigades of the enemy, as well as the 1st Brigade of the National Guard of Ukraine. In total, 18 combat battalions. Additionally, units and formations of the Western Troop Group continue to successfully advance in the Krasnolimansk direction, with the liberation of the settlement of Yampol nearing completion. Offensive actions are also being conducted in other directions. Over the past 2 weeks, the Northern Troop Group has successfully advanced in the southern part of Volchansk. To date, more than 70% of the city has been liberated. The Southern Troop Group assault units have liberated the settlements of Dronovka and Pleshchevka, continuing urban battles in Seversk and Konstantinovka. The East Troop Group is advancing in the Dnipropetrovsk and Zaporizhzhia regions, liberating 6 settlements. Comrade Supreme Commander-in-Chief, during the training of strategic nuclear forces, combat training launches of YARS and Sineva intercontinental ballistic missiles, as well as 2 Kh-102 air-launched cruise missiles, were conducted. The objectives of the training have been achieved. Report finished.
Thank you, Vladimir Vasilievich. In conclusion of this part of our work, I would like to note that the successes of the Russian troops in surrounding the Krasnoarmeysk, Dmitrovo agglomeration and the city of Kupiansk, the results of completing combat tasks in other directions have undoubtedly become possible thanks to the heroic actions of our soldiers, sergeants, junior commanders, as well as the meticulous work of the headquarters and all levels of leadership. I want to congratulate the entire personnel of the Joint Troop Group with these results. At the same time, as noted earlier, there lies a great deal of difficult work ahead in eliminating the surrounding enemy formations. In this regard, I would like to draw attention to a few points. First, to minimize unnecessary casualties, I urge you, as we have done with you before, to take all necessary measures to ensure the surrender of Ukrainian servicemen, those who wish to do so. We know, you know better than anyone, that this is not easy for the servicemen of the Ukrainian army because they are fired on from behind and targeted by drones from above, eliminating those trying to surrender. Nevertheless, on our part, it is natural and it is necessary to act with prisoners in accordance with international law and the legislative framework of the Aryan Federation. Historically, the Russian army has always treated a vanquished enemy with mercy. We will proceed from this. We have discussed this with you many times, and we have not reported on the various situations occurring at one or another section of combat contact. In the same manner, I ask you to continue to act. And of course, during combat operations to clear these territories, everything must be done to ensure the safety of the civilian population, which Ukrainian formations use as a human shield. The local residents must be provided with all necessary assistance, and measures should be taken for their evacuation to safe areas. The troop group commanders must continue to execute special military operations according to the plan developed by the General Staff of the Armed Forces. At the same time, ensuring the preservation of the lives of our servicemen is a priority task. We talk about this with you constantly, and I know how you personally feel about it. So, my approach, which you also know, is that we will not prioritize some dates or events over the military advisability. We will always, as we have done so far, prioritize the preservation of the lives of our guys, our servicemen. As for the training of strategic offensive forces, this, once again, we have confirmed the reliability of Russia's nuclear shield. Strategic forces are capable of ensuring the national security of the Russian Federation and the Union State in full. And we have already talked about this. This is a fact, which is well known to everyone, to all military specialists around the world. As they call it, the modernity of our armed forces. The nuclear deterrent forces are at the highest level possible, and probably, without any exaggeration, can be said to be at a higher level than any other nuclear state. Now, regarding the exercise that was conducted, I asked the Chief of the General Staff to report on another event. I briefly mentioned it in my introductory remarks. It involves the testing of the Burevestnik cruise missile with unlimited range and a nuclear energy installation. I know that I have a report from the industry, generally unknown assessments of the Ministry of Defense. This is, after all, a unique piece of equipment that no one in the world has. Moreover, I remember well when we announced that we were developing such a weapon, even specialists of a very high level and class told me that yes, it's a good and worthy goal, but in the foreseeable future, historically, it will be unachievable. That was the opinion of specialists, I repeat, of high class. And now decisive tests are completed. There is still a lot of work ahead to put this weapon on combat duty. It's clear. All necessary regulations need to be followed. In the implementation, but nevertheless. The key tasks are now achieved, as I understand, and I would like to hear the opinion of the Chief of the General Staff, Comrade Leonid Ivanovich. Such a test was conducted on October 21st. Indeed, what makes it different from previous tests is that a multi-hour flight of the missile was conducted, during which it covered a distance of 14,000 kilometers. And this is not the limit on a nuclear power installation. And the technical characteristics of the Burevestnik generally allow its application, with guaranteed accuracy against highly protected objects at any distance. Moreover, during the flight of the missile, all assigned vertical and horizontal maneuvers were performed, thereby demonstrating high capabilities in bypassing anti-missile and air defense systems. How many thousand kilometers? 14,000. And it was airborne. Well, about 15 hours. And that's not the limit. Not the limit. We will need to determine in the Lenin region to what class the new weapon system belongs. We need to determine possible applications and start preparing the infrastructure for deploying this weapon in our armed forces. Yes, as for the enemy, blocked in those regions you just reported, without any doubt the enemy will try to unblock their groups. From outside, from inside, to directly unblock, and through actions in nearby areas, create conditions for this unblocking, the enemy unblocking. And in this regard, I came here to listen primarily to the opinions of the group commanders. How do you plan to conduct combat operations in the near future, given the current situation in the divisions entrusted to you?
Какому классу оружия эта новая система относится, надо определить возможный способ применения и начать готовить инфраструктуру для размещения подавления наших есть. Теперь, что касается противника, заблокированного в тех регионах, о которых вы сейчас доложили, без всяких сомнений противник будет пытаться деблокировать свои группировки извне, изнутри, и напрямую деблокировать, и с помощью действий в ближайших районах создать условия для этого деблокирования. И в этой связи прежде всего командующий. Как вы планируете в ближайшее время, с учетом сложившейся ситуации,